Have you ever been in a conversation where someone asks you a tough question and your brain suddenly goes blank? You can almost hear your thoughts scrambling, but the words refuse to come out. You know you have an answer. You know you have the knowledge. But your mouth and your mind just don't seem to connect. Later, you replay the moment in your head and think, I should have said that. That moment, that frustrating pause when your mind goes quiet, is not a sign of weakness. It's a signal that your brain has entered what scientists call a high-pressure state. In this masterclass, we're going to explore exactly what happens in that moment, why your brain slows down, why your words disappear, and most importantly, how you can train your mind to think faster, clearer, and with total confidence under pressure. By the end of this session, you'll not only know what to do in high-stakes conversations, you'll understand why it works. So let's begin at the source. What really happens inside your brain when you feel pressure? When you're in a high-stakes moment, maybe a job interview, a presentation, or even a disagreement with someone important, your brain interprets that situation as a potential threat, not an emotional threat, but a biological one. To your brain, social rejection and physical danger are processed in similar ways. That's why a critical question in a meeting can trigger the same physiological reaction as hearing a sudden loud noise behind you. Your body goes into survival mode. Your heartbeat accelerates. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your palms sweat. And most importantly, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for reasoning and language, starts to lose access to resources. Your body, thinking it's helping, redirects blood and oxygen away from that area and toward your muscles, just in case you need to run or fight. This is why your voice may shake. It's why your mind goes blank. And it's why, in those moments, you might say something you regret, or nothing at all. The good news is, this reaction is predictable. And because it's predictable, it's also trainable. You can reprogram your brain's relationship with pressure. You can teach your body to interpret stress not as danger, but as energy. Let's understand this transformation step by step. When you first feel pressure, say someone challenges your opinion, you experience what psychologists call amygdala hijack. The amygdala, the emotional center of your brain, detects threat and takes control before your rational mind can respond. It's like an alarm system that goes off too early. Before you've had a chance to think, your body is already reacting. That's why people often say something defensive, impulsive, or emotional. But the more fascinating part is this. Your amygdala isn't trying to sabotage you. It's trying to protect you. It assumes that staying safe is more important than staying eloquent. So your brain gives you two choices, fight or flight. But in a conversation, neither option really works. You can't punch your way through a question, and you can't exactly run out of the room. So what do we do instead? We freeze. And that freeze response, that mental pause, is your body waiting for direction. This is where awareness becomes your superpower. Because once you recognize that this moment is simply biology, you can choose a different response. You can learn to override the instinct to freeze and redirect that surge of energy into calm focus. That's what this masterclass is about. Let's talk about what high-pressure thinking actually means. When people say, I need to think faster, what they usually mean is, I need to process and respond more effectively. Fast thinking isn't about speaking at lightning speed. It's about staying clear while your brain is under load. In neuroscience terms, thinking fast is less about velocity and more about efficiency of access. It's about being able to reach stored information quickly, without your emotions blocking the way. That means the skill we're really building is not speed, but control. And the foundation of control is calm. You cannot think fast if your nervous system is in chaos, but when you train calmness, clarity naturally follows. That's why the most composed communicators, the ones who respond smoothly under pressure, aren't faster thinkers. They're calmer thinkers. They don't let the pressure change their rhythm. They maintain control of their internal tempo. And that's what you'll learn to do next. So, how do you start retraining your response to pressure? You begin with your breath. Your breath is the remote control of your nervous system. When you breathe shallowly, you tell your brain, we're not safe. When you breathe deeply and slowly, you tell your brain, we're okay. This single signal changes the chemistry of your body within seconds. Take a deep breath now and exhale longer than you inhale. That extended exhale activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the part that brings your body back to calm. This is not a relaxation technique, it's a performance technique. You're not calming down to chill, you're calming down to access clarity. Every high-pressure moment you'll ever face starts with one choice: breathe or react. The moment you breathe first, you take control back from your body. You return leadership to your mind. That's the first foundation of fast thinking. Physiological control. Before you can train your mind, you have to regulate your body. The great speakers, negotiators, and leaders of history aren't fearless. They're regulated. They still feel stress. They just know how to direct it. Stress is energy, and energy, when guided correctly, becomes focus. You can't remove pressure from life, but you can harness it. And the first step to doing that is learning to stay centered, no matter how strong the external tension becomes. That's the foundation. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the psychology of real-time communication, how to keep your composure while you're being challenged, and how to structure your thoughts instantly when stakes are high. Now that you understand what happens inside your brain when you feel pressure, let's move into something more practical. How do you actually stay mentally sharp when all eyes are on you? How do you keep your composure when someone challenges your ideas or asks you a question you didn't see coming? Let's begin by understanding a powerful concept: cognitive load. Cognitive load simply means the amount of information your working memory can handle at once. When you're calm, your brain can juggle ideas easily. You can recall facts, connect dots, and express yourself clearly. But when stress enters the picture, your cognitive load skyrockets. Your mind becomes crowded with irrelevant noise, worry, self-doubt, fear of judgment, and even the awareness that people are watching you. All of that consumes precious mental space. So the key to thinking faster isn't always to add more mental power. It's often to remove the clutter. Imagine your brain as a whiteboard. If it's full of scribbles and notes, you can't write anything new. You first need to erase what doesn't matter. That's what great communicators do in real time. They clear mental space instantly. Here's how you can do it too. When you feel yourself tightening up during a high-pressure conversation, ask yourself one question internally. What is the core of what's happening right now? That question refocuses your mind on clarity. It stops the emotional spiral and activates rational thought. The human mind loves direction. If you don't give it one, it creates its own, usually toward worry. So when you consciously point it back to the core, you simplify your internal dialogue. This 1-second redirection can save you from blanking out completely. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine you're in a meeting. You've just presented your idea. Someone says, "I don't think that will work." Instantly, your brain lights up with possible fears. They don't like me. I should have prepared better. What do I say now? All that noise drowns your logic. But if you pause and ask, what is the core of this moment? The answer might be simple. They have a concern, and I need to understand it. Suddenly, your focus shifts from defense to curiosity. Now your response becomes natural. You might say, "That's interesting. Can you tell me what makes you say that?" You just transformed a tense moment into a collaborative one, and you did it by directing your cognitive load toward clarity. Now, let's talk about another major factor that affects quick thinking: self-monitoring. Self-monitoring is your inner narrator. It's the voice that says, "Am I speaking too fast? Do I sound stupid? What do they think of me right now?" Everyone has it, and in moderation, it's useful. It helps you adjust. But under pressure, self-monitoring can turn against you. When you start observing yourself too much, you lose the natural flow of thought. It's like trying to dance while analyzing every step. So to think faster, you must learn to quiet the self-monitoring voice, not remove it entirely, but lower its volume. Here's a simple way to do it. Whenever you feel that self-judging voice getting loud, redirect your focus outward. Instead of thinking, "How am I doing?" ask, "What's happening with them?" Shift from self-consciousness to other awareness. That small change puts your attention back on the person or problem in front of you, which automatically restores mental flow, because fast thinking is not about me, it's about the moment. Now let's introduce a powerful technique used by professional speakers, negotiators, and even trial lawyers. It's called chunk thinking. Chunk thinking means grouping ideas into manageable pieces, so your brain doesn't have to process too much at once. Think of your thoughts like puzzle pieces. If you have 100 loose pieces on the table, it's overwhelming. But if you connect them into 4 or 5 clusters, you can see the full picture easily. So when you're in a high-pressure conversation, don't think word by word. Think in concept chunks. For example, instead of thinking, "I need to say this sentence exactly right," think, "What's the main point I want to make?" When your brain focuses on meaning rather than wording, you sound smoother, and ironically, you sound smarter. Chunk thinking also helps prevent filler words like or Those usually appear when your brain is still assembling a thought piece by piece. When you speak in chunks, you give yourself micro pauses to breathe, which keeps your tone calm and confident. So here's a quick exercise. Next time you explain something, imagine dividing it into 3 small chunks. Say 1 chunk, pause, then continue. You'll notice that your sentences sound more intentional, and your brain feels less pressured to fill every second with sound. Let's explore something deeper now: the rhythm of conversation. Every conversation has a rhythm. When you're nervous, you tend to rush, trying to fill silence or prove competence. But the best communicators use rhythm strategically. They speak with cadence. They insert pauses at natural points. They let silence carry weight. The human brain processes ideas during silence, not during speech. So when you pause, you're not losing control. You're giving your audience time to catch up. Pausing also benefits you. It gives your mind a microsecond to organize what's next. Think of it as the comma in a sentence, not the end, just a breath before the next thought. If you train yourself to speak with rhythm, your brain learns to anticipate pauses instead of fearing them. That anticipation reduces mental strain. you begin to experience what athletes call flow state, a mental condition where your awareness and performance merge. In conversation, flow feels like ease. You're fully present, and the right words seem to appear exactly when you need them. That's not magic, it's rhythm training. Now, let's go practical. Here's a short mental exercise you can start doing daily. It's called real-time reframing. When someone says something that triggers you, maybe a question, maybe criticism, you have 1 second to choose your framing. Do you interpret it as an attack or as information? Most people automatically hear challenge as threat, but you can retrain your perception to hear challenge as opportunity. For example, someone says, "I don't think that's realistic." Instead of reacting emotionally, reframe it instantly. They're not rejecting me, they're asking for clarity. That tiny mental reframing keeps your mind open and your tone professional. The best communicators don't avoid tough conversations, they reinterpret them in real time. That's how they stay composed, and that's how they think faster. We've now built the foundation of mental clarity under pressure. You've learned how to manage cognitive load, quiet your self-monitoring, chunk your thoughts, control rhythm, and reframe challenges. Next, we'll move into the deeper part of the masterclass, the neuroscience of verbal agility. You'll learn how to strengthen your brain's language center, how to store ideas in accessible ways, and how to practice quick thinking exercises that actually rewire your response to pressure. So far, you've learned how your brain reacts under pressure and how to calm it so you can think clearly. Now, let's go deeper into the mechanics of verbal agility. Verbal agility is the ability to respond quickly, not because you've memorized what to say, but because your mind is flexible enough to find the right words in the moment. Think of it like mental reflexes. When someone throws a ball at you unexpectedly, you don't have time to think about catching it. You just react. Verbal agility works the same way. It's the muscle memory of communication, and yes, it can be trained. Let's start by understanding how the brain forms responses in real time. When someone speaks to you, your brain performs 3 tasks almost simultaneously. First, it listens, decoding meaning. Second, it retrieves related information from memory. And third, it constructs a sentence to respond. Under calm conditions, this process happens in milliseconds. But under stress, the retrieval part slows down. You know what you want to say, but you can't access the exact words. That delay creates the dreaded pause, the blank stare, the mental freeze. To prevent that, you have to train retrieval speed. This isn't about speaking faster, it's about connecting ideas faster. Let's look at a few exercises that strengthen this ability. Exercise 1, the 30-second summarizer. Once a day, choose any topic, something you read, heard, or watched. Set a timer for 30 seconds. Now, explain that topic out loud as clearly as you can. Don't worry about sounding perfect. The goal is clarity and speed of structure. This trains your brain to quickly organize information and express it without overthinking. When you repeat this daily, you'll notice you start summarizing ideas automatically. Even in spontaneous conversations, you'll begin thinking in organized chunks, and your speech will sound smoother and more intentional. Exercise 2, verbal paraphrasing. Choose a random sentence from a book, an article, or a podcast. Now rephrase it 3 different ways. For example, the project failed because of poor communication. You could say, the project didn't succeed due to a lack of clear communication. We missed our goal because the team wasn't aligned. The real problem was that no one was truly communicating. Each variation forces your brain to find alternative expressions, strengthening flexibility in your language center. Why is this important? Because flexibility creates speed. The more ways your brain can describe an idea, the easier it is to find one in the heat of the moment. This is how you eliminate that, pause. Your mind doesn't freeze because it has multiple doors to open. Exercise 3. Mental transitions. One of the biggest challenges in pressure conversations is moving smoothly from one idea to another. People often stumble because they don't know how to bridge thoughts. Here's how to practice that skill. Pick any 2 random topics, let's say coffee and confidence. Now try to connect them in a single thought. You might say, coffee boosts alertness, and alertness often fuels confidence. Or, just like coffee wakes your body up, self-awareness wakes your confidence. This is called associative linking. It strengthens your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that connects unrelated ideas. Over time, you'll find yourself making faster, more creative connections in real conversations. That's how improvisers and quick thinkers seem so sharp. Their brains are trained to link ideas instantly. Now let's address something every communicator faces: verbal clutter. Verbal clutter includes filler words, long tangents, and unnecessary phrases. When your mind races, your mouth often tries to keep up by filling gaps with noise. Like or so basically. Those fillers happen because your brain is buffering. It's trying to buy time. The solution isn't to force yourself to eliminate fillers. That just adds pressure. The solution is to create thinking space in your speech. Instead of saying, replace that noise with a short, deliberate pause. It feels uncomfortable at first, but to listeners, it sounds confident. Every great speaker uses silence as punctuation. You can too. Here's a small trick. When you feel a filler coming, breathe. Literally inhale instead of saying, That micro breath refreshes your oxygen and gives your brain the second it needs to retrieve the next idea. Over time, your fillers will naturally fade, replaced by thoughtful silence. Let's explore something fascinating about quick thinkers. They don't think faster because their brain is inherently quicker. They think faster because they use patterns. Pattern recognition is one of the brain's greatest strengths. When you've seen something before, you process it almost instantly. That's why experts appear calm under pressure. Their brain recognizes familiar situations and knows which mental pattern to apply. You can develop this same ability by studying conversational patterns. For example, almost every tough question in a meeting falls into one of 3 categories: clarification, skepticism, or challenge. If you recognize the category early, you can apply a response pattern. For instance, if it's a clarification question, respond by restating and expanding. If it's skepticism, respond by validating and reframing. If it's a challenge, respond by agreeing on one point, then redirecting. These become your internal templates. Over time, your mind doesn't have to figure it out every time. It simply matches the pattern and acts. That's the secret of fast, confident communication. Let's talk briefly about mental rehearsal. Athletes visualize before a big game. Musicians mentally rehearse before stepping on stage. You can do the same with conversations. Spend 5 minutes a day imagining a high-pressure scenario, maybe a presentation, a job interview, or a negotiation. Picture yourself staying calm. Visualize your breathing steady. Imagine the question coming and see yourself responding smoothly. This technique wires your brain to handle real moments the same way. Your mind doesn't distinguish much between mental rehearsal and real experience. So the more you practice composure in your imagination, the easier it becomes in reality. This is called priming. It's one of the most powerful tools in performance psychology. There's another dimension to fast thinking we often overlook: listening speed. Most people focus on what to say next. But truly fast thinkers are fast listeners. They absorb what's being said quickly and accurately, so their brain has more time to formulate a response. Listening faster doesn't mean interrupting or multitasking. It means focusing more completely. When you give your full attention, your brain processes context faster. It notices tone, word choice, and intent, not just content. That context gives you more to work with. You can tailor your response precisely, making you sound both quick and thoughtful. The next time someone speaks to you under pressure, listen with full presence. Don't prepare your response while they talk. Just absorb. When they finish, your mind will already have the ingredients it needs. That's real-time intelligence. To summarize this section, verbal agility is not about speed. It's about prepared flexibility. You've now learned how to strengthen recall through summarizing and paraphrasing, build mental connections with associative thinking, eliminate filler words with breathing pauses, recognize conversational patterns quickly, use visualization to prime your brain, and listen with full awareness to create faster responses. These habits create what psychologists call automatic fluency, a state where your brain retrieves ideas effortlessly under pressure. In the next part, we'll explore the emotional intelligence side of fast thinking, how to regulate your tone, read others' emotions, and use empathy to gain control of stressful conversations. At this point, you've learned how to calm your body, how to clear your thoughts, and how to train your verbal reflexes. Now let's explore a deeper layer: emotional control. Because no matter how mentally sharp you are, if your emotions take over, your clarity will vanish. High-pressure moments don't just challenge your intelligence, they challenge your state. And emotional state determines performance. You can have all the right techniques, the right phrases, breathing, and frameworks, but if your emotions hijack your focus, your delivery will collapse. So let's learn how to stay emotionally grounded, even when the conversation becomes uncomfortable, tense, or confrontational. The first thing to understand is that emotions are not enemies, they're signals. Each emotion tells you something valuable. Fear says, "This matters to me." Anger says, "A boundary was crossed." Frustration says, "Something isn't working." When you start seeing emotions as information instead of interference, you regain control. The goal isn't to suppress emotion, it's to integrate it. You want to feel emotion, but still choose your response consciously. That's emotional intelligence in action. Let's explore a quick framework for emotional awareness that you can use during any conversation. I call it the 3 A's: acknowledge, accept, and adjust. Acknowledge. Notice what you're feeling without judgment. You might think, "Okay, I'm anxious." Naming an emotion lowers its power. Accept. Tell yourself it's okay to feel this way. Pressure situations cause emotion by design. This acceptance stops you from fighting your own reaction. Adjust. Now that you've noticed and accepted it, decide how to use that emotion constructively. For example, anxiety can fuel focus. Frustration can sharpen your sense of purpose. Acknowledge, accept, adjust. That's how you convert emotional chaos into mental clarity. Here's something many people misunderstand. Confidence is not the absence of nerves. It's the ability to act effectively despite them. Think about professional athletes or performers. Almost all of them still feel nervous before big moments, but their training transforms that energy into focus. That's what emotional regulation does for you in conversations. It lets you turn nervous energy into alertness. So the next time you feel your heart racing, don't fight it, label it, then channel it. Say to yourself, this is energy, let's use it. That single reframe can completely change how you perform. Now, let's talk about presence. One of the most powerful and underrated tools for thinking faster under pressure. Presence means your mind and body are both fully in the moment. No worrying about the past, no predicting the future. When you're truly present, your cognitive resources are completely available. You hear more, you notice more, you access words more easily. Presence sharpens thinking, but presence can't exist where fear dominates. So how do you strengthen it? Start by practicing micro-presence moments in daily life. For example, when you talk to someone, focus entirely on their tone, facial expression, and words, not on what you'll say next. When you listen with full attention, your brain automatically syncs with theirs, a phenomenon called neural mirroring. It creates connection, and connection reduces pressure. The more present you are, the faster you can respond, because you're no longer lost in internal noise. Presence is clarity in action. Let's explore another advanced skill, empathic speed. Empathic speed is the ability to read emotional cues quickly and adapt your communication accordingly. When you sense tension in someone else early, you can steer the conversation before it escalates. For instance, if you notice someone's tone shift or their body language close off, acknowledge it gracefully. You might say, I sense this topic feels a bit sensitive, am I right? That single act of empathy lowers defensiveness immediately. Empathy is not softness, it's strategy, because when people feel understood, they stop resisting, and when resistance drops, conversations flow. That flow state benefits both of you. Their openness increases, and your mental load decreases. You free up brain power that would otherwise be wasted on managing conflict or tension. That's how empathy fuels quick thinking. Now let's address something that often derails fast thinkers: ego. Ego is the part of your mind that wants to win. It wants to be right, to look good, to dominate the conversation. But in high-pressure communication, ego slows you down. Why? Because the moment your focus shifts from the topic to how you're being perceived, you're working memory fragments. Instead of thinking clearly, you start performing. Performance mode drains cognitive power. So the key is to replace ego with purpose. Whenever you enter a difficult conversation, quietly remind yourself, this isn't about me, it's about understanding. Purpose keeps you steady. Ego makes you reactive. When your purpose is strong, your presence is unshakable. That's why the best communicators don't argue to win. They communicate to align, and ironically, they often win more respect and influence in the process. Let's bring this down to practice. Imagine you're in a debate. Someone raises their voice, tries to dominate the conversation, or throws a critical question your way. Your instinct might be to defend yourself, to prove your point instantly, but emotional control means doing the opposite. First, breathe. Second, listen. Third, slow down your voice. When you lower your tone and pace, you signal control, not submission. You can say calmly, I see this matters to you. Let's unpack it one piece at a time. This approach accomplishes two things simultaneously. It stabilizes you and it diffuses them. They match your calm energy, and suddenly, what could have become an argument turns into a productive dialogue. That's the power of emotional control. Let's also talk about tone management. tone is more influential than words. You can say the same sentence in two different tones and create opposite reactions. For instance, "I understand what you mean," said with warmth builds trust, said with sarcasm destroys it. When you're under pressure, tone tends to reveal your inner state. If you're defensive, your tone tightens. If you're anxious, your tone rises. To master tone control, practice what I call vocal grounding. Before you speak in a tense situation, drop your voice slightly lower. Speak from your diaphragm, not your throat. This instantly calms both you and your listener. Your tone becomes steady, your breathing slows, and your words carry more authority. When you combine grounded tone with calm pauses, you project both clarity and confidence. Now, let's connect this to influence. Influence doesn't come from dominating a conversation. It comes from guiding it, and guidance is a function of presence, empathy, and clarity. When people feel you're genuinely listening, they open up. When they feel understood, they trust you. And when they trust you, they follow your lead. That's influence. You can't force it. You create it by mastering yourself first. The more emotionally steady you are, the more mentally agile you become. Because a calm brain is a clear brain, and a clear brain is a fast brain. You've now reached a higher level of mastery. You understand physiology, mental focus, verbal agility, and emotional intelligence. But there's one more layer, long-term reinforcement. How do you turn all this into a natural part of who you are? That's what we'll explore next, building lasting habits for fast, calm, and confident thinking. In any high-pressure situation, you've now reached the final stage of this masterclass. You understand how pressure affects your brain. You've learned to regulate your body, calm your mind, and stay present. You've practiced verbal agility, emotional control, and composure. Now we're going to bring everything together to turn these techniques into lasting habits. Because thinking faster under pressure isn't a one-time trick. It's a trained mental state. The same way athletes train their reflexes, you can train your mental clarity until it becomes second nature. Let's talk about how to make that happen. The first principle of mastery is consistency over intensity. You don't need to spend hours a day practicing. You need to practice regularly. Your brain learns through repetition. Small daily habits rewire it faster than rare moments of brilliance. So here's how to design your mental speed routine. Every morning before you start your day, spend 5 minutes on one mental agility exercise. It could be summarizing an article out loud. It could be rephrasing one idea in 3 different ways. It could even be describing an object near you as if you were teaching it to a child. This 5-minute ritual keeps your language center sharp and your cognitive connections active. Over time, you'll notice that conversations feel easier. Words come faster. Ideas connect more naturally. That's your training taking effect. The second principle is exposure over avoidance. If you want to think faster under pressure, you have to face pressure intentionally. Avoiding challenging conversations keeps your nervous system untrained. Instead, expose yourself to small, controlled doses of pressure. Speak up first in meetings. Ask questions in discussions. Volunteer to summarize group ideas. Each time you do this, your brain gets used to operating under mild stress. You're telling your nervous system, "This is safe. We've been here before." And each time, your tolerance grows. Eventually, what once triggered panic feels completely normal. That's how composure becomes effortless. The third principle is reflection over repetition. Practice alone doesn't guarantee improvement. Reflection does. After every important conversation, take 1 minute to reflect. Ask yourself 3 questions. What went well? Where did I freeze or stumble? What could I do differently next time? That's it. No judgment, just awareness. Your brain learns best when it reviews experiences consciously. Reflection turns random moments into structured learning. It's how you convert feedback into progress. The 4th principle is integration. Don't isolate these techniques to special situations. Use them everywhere. Practice calm breathing when you're in traffic. Practice rephrasing when texting a friend. Practice silence when you feel impatient. The more you integrate these habits into everyday moments, the stronger your baseline composure becomes. By the time you enter an actual high-stakes conversation, your calm and clarity are already trained. You won't need to try to think fast. You'll simply be fast. Let's explore a few daily practices that help maintain your mental agility over time. 1. Journaling for cognitive clarity. Spend 5 minutes a day writing down your thoughts. Not to be poetic, just to organize your mind. Writing strengthens the neural pathways that connect language, logic, and memory. It's like a gym for your brain's prefrontal cortex. 2. Reading with awareness. When you read something, an article, a quote, or a story, pause after each paragraph and summarize it out loud. That simple act trains your brain to extract meaning quickly and articulate it clearly. 3. Physical grounding. Movement enhances cognition. A short walk before an important meeting can literally improve your verbal processing speed. The brain thrives on oxygen and motion. 4. Mindful silence. Spend a few minutes a day in silence. No phone, no noise, no multitasking. This resets your attention span, which directly impacts how quickly you can process and respond later. Think of silence as sharpening the blade. Before the next use, here's something most people overlook. Rest is part of thinking speed. Your mind can't be sharp if it's constantly overstimulated. Sleep, downtime, and rest are what allow the brain to consolidate information. Fast thinking doesn't come from constant activity. It comes from balance, the rhythm of focus and recovery. So, make rest a skill, not a reward. That's what keeps your mind at peak performance. Now, let's talk about the psychology of confidence. Real confidence under pressure comes from familiarity, not ego. When your mind has been exposed, when your body has been trained, when you've practiced calmness, you don't need to fake confidence. You simply recognize the situation and know you can handle it. Confidence is the memory of success. Even small wins count. Every time you handle a conversation calmly, you reinforce that memory. Your brain starts predicting competence, and what the brain predicts, it produces. That's why mastery starts small, but compounds quickly. Let's shift perspective now. Thinking fast isn't only about pressure from others. Sometimes the pressure comes from yourself. Internal pressure, self-criticism, perfectionism, fear of being judged can be louder than any external challenge. To overcome this, you must practice self-compassion. Self-compassion doesn't mean lowering standards. It means supporting yourself through mistakes instead of punishing yourself for them. When you treat yourself harshly, you activate the same threat response that shuts your brain down. But when you respond with kindness, you keep your cognitive functions open. So when you catch yourself thinking, I messed that up, try reframing it to, I'm learning to handle moments like this. That one shift protects your mental clarity and accelerates your growth. As you continue mastering these skills, you'll notice something profound. The goal isn't to eliminate pressure, it's to become immune to it. Pressure will always exist, but you will meet it differently. You'll breathe deeper, you'll speak slower, you'll think clearer, and the person on the other side of the conversation will feel it too. They'll feel your steadiness, they'll sense your control, and that energy, calm, clear, composed, is what makes you magnetic, because true communication power isn't about dominating others, it's about mastering yourself. Let's conclude this masterclass with a reflection. Every conversation is a mirror. It reflects your emotional state, your clarity, and your self-trust. When you change what happens inside, everything you project outside transforms. You've now learned how to breathe through pressure, organize your thoughts instantly, manage your tone, and engage with empathy. You've learned to slow down your inner world, so your outer communication feels effortless. You've learned that fast thinking isn't about racing, it's about rhythm. The rhythm of calm awareness, steady focus, and thoughtful response. If you commit to these practices, your communication will evolve, not only in high-pressure conversations, but in every part of your life. You'll lead better, you'll connect deeper, you'll inspire trust faster, because thinking fast under pressure isn't a talent, it's a trained expression of peace. Take a deep breath now. Remember how far you've come in this hour, and remind yourself, you can handle any conversation with clarity, with calm, and with confidence. Stay curious, stay composed, and keep communicating with intention. This is how you think faster in high-pressure conversations.